You know when you're a little kid and you're convinced you don't like something, but then like 10, 15 years later, you try that thing again, and you love it? That's how I've been feeling with coffee, dark chocolate, and dark women. Am I right, fella? But this fella's palate has refined a bit over this last year, even more so than that. For the longest time, if anyone asked me what my least favorite kind of deck to run was, I'd say tribal, or typal, or kindred, or whatever I'm supposed to say. I don't know what I'm supposed to do anymore.
Dad, what are you saying?
I don't like what the world is!
And I was adamant about this. You ask my cousin who has an Eldrazi deck, a Sliver deck, a Dog and Cat deck, and a Goblin Perforos deck. He's the head of the Council of Creatures. He'll tell you. The strategy just seemed so unappealing to me, as it just seemed to corner you into a build that was super cookie cutter. But, liking a challenge, I was determined to find a tribal deck that I actually liked playing. I knew already that no elf or goblin decks would ever be for me, so those were off the table. I don't like zombies at all, and I'm not really a squirrel guy. So it seemed like this was just not the type of deck I was meant to play. A strategy I would simply be stripped of if you were. Until I flipped through my binder and saw my Go Shinte of Life's Origin sitting on the toilet when I was going to take a Shinte. Anyway. I'm not kidding when I say this is one of the most fun and unique decks that I'm playing right now. It's explosive and runs a very diverse list of cards. So if that sounds interesting to you, first off, thank you guys for clicking, and let's get into it. So a good place to start in any good Commander deck video is talking about the Commander. Go Shinte of Life's Origin is 3 and a green for a 3/4, legendary enchantment creature shrine. You can pay all the colors and tap it, return target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Whenever Go Shinte of Life's Origin or another non-token shrine enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 colorless shrine enchantment creature token. Now, if you look online, a lot of Go Shinte decks seem to lean towards fill the graveyard with shrines and big enchantments and then cheat them into play with Go Shinte's ability, but none of the shrines are that expensive to justify doing that, and one of them's a mana dork for us. We really don't need to be doing all that fancy stuff. We use his activated ability if we need to late game. Don't really devote time and resources to it early, it's not worth it. But its second triggered ability is really nice. That's where the majority of this deck fires off. Every non-token shrine that enters on our side makes shrine tokens. That'll come in later. And when every shrine effect scales with the amount of shrines you control, it gets out of hand. So going into this deck, the first step, of course, was picking up some shrines. Now, we run all of them besides 3. The 3 that we don't run being Honden of Cleansing Fire as it gains life, and I just don't like life gain, and 3 and a white's a bit steep just to gain life. Honden of Night's Reach is just really unfun to play against. I'm going to be honest, I don't like cards that are this unfun. It'll just strip opponents' hands. I'll have everyone top decking. I don't really like that. Sanctum of Tranquil Light as a 1-mana shrine is really good value, but the effect just seems mediocre, especially in a 5-color deck when it costs 1 white. This might be one that I put into the deck in the future, but the deck feels so good right now to play that I'm not sure. After taking out the shrines I didn't need or want, I ordered the rest, those being Go Shinte of Ancient War, direct damage on a shrine. Yes, this thing is a game ender with the amount of shrines we can output, as well as being able to smoke planeswalkers if needed. Sure. Go Shinte of Boundless Vigor is a very cheap shrine, being only 1 and a green that can also buff up our tokens or our commander, or itself as it has trample, and easily can become a win condition within itself. Go Shinte of Hidden Cruelty is a great piece of removal, as at one point we will have enough shrines to take out any threat as well as being able to kill any token right off the bat, because they don't have a mana cost. Go Shinte of Lost Wisdom is another great way to potentially end the game through milling, but also mess with other players, setting their decks, maybe tutoring with Vamp tutors and stuff like that. Always a good time. Go Shinte of Shared Purpose is yet again another great way to end the game, not only with the amount of tokens that it makes, but paired with cards we'll talk about shortly, become very scary. Honden of Infinite Rage, do I need to say it? Direct damage on a shrine. It's a good way to end the game. Honden of Life's Web, just like Shared Purpose, can output an insane amount of tokens, which synergizes great with future deck pieces we'll get into. Honden of Seeing Winds is a bit steep at 5 mana, but playing your commander into Honden of Seeing Winds means that you'll draw 4 extra cards, including the 2 shrine tokens that Go Shinte of Life's Origins outputs. Drawing 5 cards, never bad. Sanctum of All is just really cool. You can't not have this in a shrine deck. Tutors up shrines, doubles all the shrines effects. It's just a win con. It's really gross. Sanctum of Calm Waters is just a better Honden of Seeing Winds. As it costs 1 less, it only makes you discard 1 card at the end of the draw, which in a deck where your commander has an ability to recur stuff. Sanctum of Fruitful Harvest is an amazing shrine, providing early mana, and it helps us play more shrines. Again, with just this and your commander in play, you're adding 4 mana on your turn, which is very nice. Sanctum of Shattered Heights is a great way to get late late game lands out of your hand, or shrines you want to recur with your commander's ability. Great removal, being able to shoot creatures. Definitely a must destroy at some point for the opponent, but now that I'm thinking about it, what shrines aren't? And Sanctum of Stonefang, yet another one that can very easily end games, draining each opponent. Now I know I said we only run 12 shrines, but this is where we get to run some cool tech in the deck. The commander only cares that a non-shrine token entered, so Mirror Pool Mimic, for instance, was a no-brainer for me, as it's just a land that can slot into our land slot, while also being a clone that can just clone a shrine and make more shrines. Mockingbird, however, might be my favorite card in the deck, as you can dump as much mana as you want into it to copy whatever you want in play, which, you know, really isn't even that good, but what you can do in this deck is pay 1 blue and then 0 for the X, and have it enter as a copy of one of the shrine tokens. It still enters as a shrine that's not a token, triggers our commander, makes a 1/1 shrine token. We paid 1 blue mana for 2 shrines. Silent Hall Creeper is one that I pulled very recently and seems great in here. It's an early body that can draw us a card and become a threat. Not only a threat, but again, it becomes a copy of a shrine, so copying one of the Ghost Shinteis or just a shrine token is fine, especially when every shrine just cares about the amount of shrines you control. Not to even mention, it itself is an enchantment creature, which interacts great with the deck. Springheart Notuko, of course, I run it. It's always a card in my decks with green. It's nuts, especially in here being an enchantment that produces tokens, and you can throw this on one of the Ghost Shinteis to start making more Ghost Shinteis, or just throw it on a shrine token to make more shrine tokens. Even it just making 1/1 insects is really good. I recently made a video talking about token engines. If you guys want to watch that, it's up in the right-hand corner. And finishing off this section, we've got Strionic Resonator and Weaver of Harmony, which can both copy our commander's triggered ability, making even more shrines. So at this point in building the deck, I could imagine the amount of tokens that we could easily find ourselves making, so I needed to find some effects that could either make tokens themselves or help us produce more shrine tokens. Homunculus Horde was the first card I put into this section. As with all the card draw from the enchantresses and some of the shrines, we get 1, then we get 2, then we get 4, then we get 8, then we get 16, then we get 32. Gets out of hand quick. Adrix and Nev Twincasters also gets out of hand quick, providing us a doubling season-esque effect, doubling all of our token effects, but for a much cheaper price on the old wallet. Onyxia Hand of Erebos was the deck I was actually building before this one, and it got turned into this one. This is great, as it can recur some of the shrines if needed, plus a lot of our important win cons are enchantments, so she can help us recur some of those. Just great. The Jolly Balloon Man is one that I saw my cousin use a lot, and I gotta say, it's a pretty sweet card. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Ghost Shinte makes tokens if you play a non-token or if you play Ghost Shinte himself. So if you Balloon Man a copy of your commander, you'll get a shrine token out of the deal, essentially making this guy another shrine engine, which is nice, while also being able to make copies of the Ghost Shinte shrine creatures or just any other big creature threat that we have in play. Another card that I pulled recently that seemed to have a place in this list is Toby Beastie Befriender, providing us with a beefier token, as well as a board-wide flying for our tokens if we have 4 or more tokens, which happens very quickly in this deck. So at this point, I was looking at the list, and it's clearly a shrine deck, but it's also a token deck. So I needed some stuff that really benefited us for having all these bodies in play, which leads us to the pingers in this deck. Baleful Leech provides a ping when enchantments enter on our side, while Wicked Visitor pings when enchantments die on our side, which, when Ghost Shinte makes enchantment tokens, gets really good. Goblin Bombardment is an easy game ender, being able to sack a creature to deal 1 damage. Again, with all the tokens we have, easy way to end a game. And I'm just going to say, all these pingers are an easy way to end the game in this deck. They're all great. Hellrider provides a ping every time we attack with a creature, which is insane in here. I've been looking for an excuse to run this. My playgroup used to run this card all the time. It's back, baby. Impact Tremors and Molten Gatekeeper are classic ping on ETB cards, which, as you could guess, really good. And finally, for this section, Tatsunari Toad Rider gives us 2 bodies as well as more pings for casting enchantments. That's all we need. At this point in building the deck, it was essentially done. All I needed were the basics: card draw, ramp, removal, a few board wipes, and I was done. But I wasn't done. I couldn't help myself but throw in some more ways to end the game outside of just pinging and tokens, because dang it, the deck's just too good at wanting too many cards in it. Enduring Courage was one that I never even looked at during spoilers for Duskmourn, but having a cheap price tag and a powerful effect in a token deck, I couldn't look away once I discovered it. Especially it being an enchantment creature that comes back again, definitely a good way to bring home some games in a token list, providing this board-wide buff and haste to anything that enters. Really nuts. Duskmourn seriously came in clutch for this deck when I looked at it. I'm gonna be real. Fear of Missing Out not only is a very early game enchantment that we can play that loots us, it could potentially put enchantments into the grave early, trigger our enchantresses to draw us cards. It also has an extra combat attack trigger on it for having 4 or more card types, which, when most of your creatures are also enchantments, this really isn't hard to do at all. Starfielded Nyx was another one that seemed like an obvious no-brainer for this deck, providing great recursion for enchantments, as well as a way to animate all of our enchantments in play, which gets out of hand quick. And finally, Tyvar the Pummeler. It's a card that I run in my Carador, I run it in my Bellow. It's been really good to me. I pulled a 3rd one, so he's in here. On screen, you can see the 14 pieces of card draw that the deck runs. the 7 pieces of acceleration that the deck runs, 10 pieces of removal, and 2 board wipes. We run 36 lands in the deck that you can see on screen. This is how the color pie is divided in the deck along with the mana curve. I'm going to go ahead and draw 3 hands for you guys to look at. Boom. Bop. Bam. Full link to the list in the description, comments. This is easily one of my funnest decks I've ever played. Definitely my favorite one to play at the moment. It's the one that I reach for the most right now. That's why it beat out Tasigur as the deck I was going to make a video about next. The Tasigur one's coming, don't worry. But let me know what you think of the deck. If there's any cards you could recommend, comment them down below. If there's any cards that you saw in here that you're going to start running, let me know what you like, what you dislike, comment, share, do all that stuff. If you want to show a little bit of additional support, you can head over to the Patreon, like all the people that you see on screen right now have done, which, thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. And also, thank you guys very much for watching the video. If you're not subscribed, check out the channel. And if you like the channel, subscribe. Plenty of more content coming out for you guys. I will see you guys in the next one.